Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to round 8 of season 3 of our F125 Cadillac career mode. Yes, we return this weekend for our home Grand Prix back at Silverstone. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live towards the end of last week from Austria, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. After a fairly calm start to the campaign, the Red Bull Ring really did seem to fire into life. Quite a lot of goings on inside this series. Max Verstappen, myself, and Esteban Ocon coming to blows was not the result we really wanted from that weekend, but it was the first time all season that the Dutchman hasn't finished a Grand Prix inside the top 2. Still, he has a 50-point lead up at the top of the championship, ahead of Lando Norris there. Yuki Tsunoda in 3rd. After our worst result of the year as well, we are down into P4. Again, obviously, I believe it's now just Lando, Yuki, and myself that have scored points. Oh, and George Russell that have scored points in every single Grand Prix so far this season. So, consistency is still very, very important and is, as always, the name of the game. But there are some big news coming into this weekend as well. Max Verstappen has announced now with the Red Bull team, due to some certain disagreements with the way the team has been run in recent years, that Red Bull now, to try and keep him on side, have given him a 10% ownership stake within the organisation. So you'll notice now there's going to be some Verstappen.com logos inside that Red Bull livery. Of course, yeah, as always, all the liveries used will be linked down in the description below, but goes to show just how much control the Verstappen camp now has with that Red Bull team. And also VCarb, of course, Red Bull's sister team as well, sporting a new, more green-themed livery on the car as well. Of course, Ford going to be coming in to the Red Bull family very, very soon as well. So you can see there's some Ford performance stickers on that car as well. And I think it looks really, really cool. Kind of, yeah, with more Ford livery or with more kind of Ford stickers on that car. And then also, of course, a bigger tie-in with their main sponsor being Cash App as well there. So, yeah, a couple of new liveries coming into this weekend, and of course we might get some more news as we head in towards the second half of the season. Of course, a massive thank you to everybody for their continued support on the channel. We are closing in rapidly on 150,000 subscribers, so if you're new, please do make sure you hit that sub button as well. Also, if you enjoy this content, please consider hitting the join button as well. You get early access to all the videos for just £1 a month. But yeah, without further ado then, let's return here to Silverstone.
Welcome along everybody to a venue that was built for speed. Once an airfield, now one of the finest racetracks in the world. It's qualifying day here at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix.
Well, I guess apart from obviously myself now, this isn't really a home Grand Prix for the team anymore. Now I know obviously Cadillac have a small base here in the UK, but let's be fair, they are going to be an American Formula 1 team when they come into the sport next year. Hadjar, of course, is French. Alexander Albon races under a Thai license, so yeah, I guess, yeah, Silverstone is kind of no longer a special event for the team, of course. It is the birthplace of Formula 1, though, and I absolutely love coming back to this venue. I'm running quite an aggressive low downforce setup this weekend, which I'm hoping is going to give us a lot of speed, but we might struggle through the corners. So you just run a little bit wide there out of the loop. Did a pretty good job to gather that up without losing too much time. But this first lap in Q1 is all about just getting us into Q2. I tell you what then, this first lap has been rather sloppy, to be completely honest. A little bit all over the show, a little bit ragged. And, well, I wouldn't be shocked if this time doesn't safely guarantee us into Q2. Going to be a 24-7. We still end up P8. So hopefully that's going to be enough. Well, there we go then. We do safely make it through and into Q2, but Lando Norris, of course, one of the home drivers here, just ahead of Max Verstappen in that first session. We're probably going to see lap times down into the 122s by your front runners this weekend. P9 for us, though. P15 for Alexander Albon. As again, it's both Audis, Jack Doohan, both V-Carbs, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli out in that first session. But yeah, we need to get a much tidier lap in Q2. Definitely this car's capable of 23s. Of course, Alexander Albon last weekend scoring his first points of the year. That was a really important move for our teammate to showcase that he has got some pace inside this series. But as we get ready then to start our first run in Q2, we are still kind of using this to learn where the limits are, and everything like that in this car. Every weekend now, where these cars are so quick, feels like a little bit of a step into the unknown there. But as we try and make our way through the first couple of corners, Yuki Tsunoda again down straight into a low 123. I believe Albon's done a 24 flat there, which is basically matching the time set by Lando Norris. So that's pretty good. Much tidier Sector 1 though from us. Let's just carry the speed through Lovefield nice and tidy. This is always a corner where I feel like you always lose time against the AI. But we're doing alright. We're barely having to downshift into 6th gear as we make our way through Maggotts and Beckett's there. Purple through the middle sector. That is exactly what we want to see then. Half a second up on the current split time of Lance Stroll, and hopefully we'll find a little bit more through these final few corners as well. They're really trying to attack that first curb, avoid the second one as best as we can. This has been a decent lap time as we get back round to the flag. 24 flat. Both myself and Albon there in the mix with the Ferraris. We just don't quite have the same out-and-out pace as some of the front runners. Well, there we go then. Yuki Tsunoda fastest ahead of Carlos Sainz. Clearly McLaren carrying that momentum from their 1-2 finish last weekend. Verstappen less than a tenth quicker than Esteban Ocon. Lando Norris 6/10 slower than the pace he managed in Q1, but both Ferraris make it through alongside Franco Colapinto, both Cadillacs and George Russell. So Oscar Piastri, he'll be a bit disappointed to be out in that second session there as well. And Liam Lawson narrowly missing out on what would have been a great qualifying effort in his Aston Martin Honda. Well, Charles Leclerc then seemingly out of nowhere in his Ferrari car going to the top of the board on a 122.8. Lando Norris though only a tenth behind. But as we've made it into this final session, Ferrari are flying here. Let's see what we can do though. I'll be happy if we can just improve on this final run in the session. 36 seconds left on the clock as we get up over that start-finish line. But now we've got to try and have the lap of my life around this British Grand Prix circuit there. Nice and tidy once again. Well, through turn 1, a little bit wide as we make our way through the first part of the loop. We'll try and leave it in third gear there so we can carry the speed off the exit of the corner. Use a little bit of battery to carry the momentum off of the turn, and we are again a little bit further up. Lando Norris though, 122.7 now. The time's getting quicker and quicker. Leclerc 122.7. Half a tenth in it between the two Ferraris. But it is the Monegasque man, the pole man, so many times before in Formula 1, that looks like he's going to do it here. Nobody else can get close to Ferrari by the end of this session, unless we can have a miracle run through the second half of this lap there. Really trying to carry the speed up in towards Maggotts and Beckett's. We're still in the green at the moment. But can we hang on to it? Well, by the end of the lap they're getting a little bit sketchy through Maggotts and Beckett's. I could just feel myself kind of tightening up in the car, as I don't want to make an error this late on in the run. Still just under a tenth up there, nice and late on the brakes as we get down towards the end of Sector 2. That should be a little bit more time found. 2 more corners ready to go then of the session. Can we go any higher than P7 here on the grid? It's probably been one of my best laps of F1 25, and it's only good enough for P6. Well, there we are then. Charles Leclerc, 4 100ths clear of his teammate Lando Norris there. But Ferrari are back with a front row lockout here for the British Grand Prix. George Russell will end up third, just ahead of Max Verstappen. But had we found another tenth of a second, we could have been up in third place there. Like I said, that was pretty much the laugh of my life around this circuit. I reckon if I got it perfect, maybe a 122 was doable come the end of the session there. Quicker than Ocon, quicker than Colapinto, Albon and Tsunoda though, so we're very happy with that. Let's see what happens though as we head into the race.
Welcome everyone as you join us at a former Second World War aircraft base, now converted into one of the great motor racing tracks. Britain is one of only 2 countries to have held a Grand Prix in every year of the Formula 1 World Championship, and long may that continue. This is Silverstone, and this is the British Grand Prix. With good opportunities to overtake at the end of the Wellington and Hangar Straights, there's a lot of potential for close action around the 3.6 miles of Silverstone circuit. With 18 corners and average lap speeds of around 145 miles per hour, it's also one of the longest and quickest circuits on the calendar. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Verstappen, Isaac Hadjar and Ocon, Colapinto, Albon, Sonoda and Liam Lawson, Piastri, Stroll, Pierre Gasly and Crawford, Sainz, Behrman, Nico Hülkenberg and Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Aaron, O'Sullivan, Bortoletto and Jack Doohan rounds off the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race.
Well, here we are then down on the grid, ready for the British Grand Prix. Ferrari with that front row lockout. Last weekend's winner, Carlos Sainz, though, having to take some grid penalties, so he will find himself further down the order, ready for the start of this one. 26 laps ahead of us, though. It is a fast-paced, frantic race around this Silverstone circuit. Let's see what we can do, though, just alongside Max Verstappen in that Red Bull car. It's 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go then. Leclerc and Russell off to a fairly tidy start. Lando Norris on the back foot as we go down in towards turn 1 there. It's going to be the battle of the Brits as Charles Leclerc will try and extend a little bit of a margin early on. We're going to send it down the inside of Max then at turn 3 there, and a big powerful move that needed to be made at the start of the GP. Hopefully we can get around the outside of the Red Bull, and we would just about get ahead of him off the exit of the loop there. Very, very happy with that start then, as immediately Verstappen, though, is going to try and come fighting back against us as we head down in towards Sector 2. But yeah, immediately, though, obviously, for our front runners, it is all about trying to break out of the DRS, give yourself that margin ahead of the cars behind you. But I don't think Leclerc's going to get that opportunity. Lando Norris started on the mediums, so is he going to try and go for the alternate strategy? Is he just trying to be more lenient on his tyres? This circuit can be brutal inside F1 25. But I'm hoping, that the aggressive one-stop strategy should be possible today. Despite how low downforce this car setup is, we do seem to have more confidence through that middle sector, through Maggots and Beckett, than a lot of the AI do. So maybe, just maybe, the AI, again, running very, very low downforce here as well. But as long as we keep that gap under a second to Norris, by the time we get into the detection point, man, it's going to be critical. Leclerc still leads at the end of lap 1. And Mercedes, well, George Russell, a brilliant qualifying lap yesterday out of nowhere. Could he spring a huge surprise today? They haven't been that competitive this year. But of course, as soon as we pick out a new rival inside this series, they then seem to become rapid. Or simply put, we just do not have the speed to keep up with those Ferraris and George Russell early on in this race. And I think now Max Verstappen is going to be able to try and look for the move on us then. Round the outside, the Dutchman will go. Luckily, we've got a bit of breathing room to Esteban Ocon, who's doing pretty well in P6. There's yellow's out, George Russell. Oh, Mercedes have had an absolute disaster then. As suddenly now Verstappen up into the final podium place, and Leclerc getting a little bit of a breakaway from Lando Norris. But Mercedes, whether they tried to turn the engine up this weekend, whatever they have done has not worked for George Russell, and he is our first retirement of the Grand Prix on just lap 3. Disaster for George. He will be not happy about that one. But I was gonna say, Verstappen and Red Bull, we've seen it every single year so far. They start the year strong, and then Ferrari absolutely become dominant in the second half of the campaign. It's a bit early to call early today, but are we seeing that script once again inside F1 25? But the good news for us then is Verstappen is not able to keep up with those Ferraris. Lando Norris now has broken the DRS there, and in fact they're over 2 seconds clear of the Dutchman. So we're just taking this opportunity just to make sure that we stay inside the range of Max and hopefully try and charge back up the battery pack a little bit. That being said, though, Esteban Ocon now, look at the run that the second Red Bull is able to get on me there. Around the outside will go Esteban, and again, it just feels like we're in a bit of an uphill battle this afternoon. Can't really do any more upgrades on the car at the moment. We're still desperately trying to upgrade facilities. We're kind of a bit limited with the speed we've got. There we go. I think Yuki Tsunoda's starting to get a little bit bored of sitting around and waiting in the wings at this stage of the day. Try to have a look more down the inside there as Verstappen into the pit lane then. This is not good. I thought the AI were probably going to be boxing end of 12 or end of 13. So my plan was to go one lap longer and still try to undercut the AI. That's definitely now not going to happen.
So let's box this lap.
Norris already now with a 10-second lead up at the front. Well, by the time we get to the end then of lap 12, not quite close enough to Esteban Ocon that time round to get a run on him. But as Lando Norris peels into the pit lane from the lead of the GP. The other one I'm a little bit nervous about is will Yuki Tsunoda get the undercut on us here? We've been able to stick with Esteban. There you go, Lando onto a set of harder compounded tyres, but seems to be working pretty well for Ferrari early on. Of course, already had the lead as Alexander Albon. He's going to lead a Formula 1 Grand Prix for the first time in I don't know how long. Not too sure why they've kept my teammate out for yet another lap, as this is going to be a slow stop. Yep, knew it immediately.
I know it's not ideal, but let's try and put that behind us and get back into this race.
On a circuit where DRS is so important, of course this is where I get absolutely screwed over with a bad pit stop. Come on, I've already pressed the limiter button.
Scheduled pit stops. Let's go.
Paul Aaron then in that V-carb is going to get ahead of me as well temporarily. But yeah, immediately we've lost 3 seconds to Esteban Ocon through the pit window. And there was nothing I could do. Immediately then all over the back of Paul Aaron here as we've got to try and make the move nice and quickly there. But you can see obviously Red Bull Jr. He will try and help them out as best as he can there, as I'm hoping we still picked up the DRS against him as wheel to wheel through Maggots and Beckett's there was not ideal. Sadly, I think we've given him the DRS. But luckily it's not going to matter too much as Albon in one of the Haas cars as well. I didn't quite catch who that was. The lap prior also into the pit lane. We've lost 5 seconds to Yuki Tsunoda in the space of 2 laps here. How utterly ridiculous is that? As it is Antonelli also into the pit lane. So we're going to be back up into 6th then. But honestly, at half distance, that might be the last thing that happens in this race. Well, maybe not everything then is as it first seemed. The gap to Tsunoda staying pretty level. But Esteban Ocon seems to be really struggling, especially through the corners here. So I don't know if he's picked up front wing damage or there's something going on with that car. We're going to try and drain a load of battery to make sure we are in the range by the time we get down in towards the loop there. But yeah, Ocon running over a 1.5 seconds, a lap slower than Tsunoda in front of him. So let's see if we can spot any damage on that Red Bull car there. For some reason, the Verstappen.com livery isn't loading. I don't know why. So after I did that big announcement in the intro, annoyingly, yeah, we can't even see kind of the colours on the car then. But as Ocon desperately trying to defend, I can't see any front wing damage on that Red Bull. We're going to try and fill his mirrors, even pull alongside him there for a brief moment. But surely now, going to be able to get a run down the back straight then. It's purple through that first sector as well. I wouldn't complain. We can claim the fastest lap bonus point this afternoon as those Ferraris and Verstappen at the front are really bunched back in on each other. Come on, get the run. Get the run, what we need to do. Oh, that's not what I meant. Big mistake there as we try and get the power down, but if we drain the battery, we should be able to get ahead of Esteban Ocon nonetheless. A little bit ragged out onto the hangar straight, but down the inside. And we are through and back up into 5th. There we go. Yep, I think Ocon's already got those issues sorted on that car, almost into the back of me by the time we got back out onto the hangar straight there. But Ocon back up into P5. It's been a little while since I finished P6, I remember, in this series, so we'll probably do another one. I'll tell you what then, another driver that has slowly been fighting his way back up through the order, Carlos Sainz. I think McLaren here have been a bit unlucky. Tsunoda just didn't quite get the lap he needed on Saturday, and of course, yes, Sainz with his grid penalties meant that he was on the back foot, so we got yellows out. Looks to be Zach O'Sullivan that is going to be our 2nd retirement of the day then, but come on, got to make sure my ERS is in the right setting, got to make sure I'm back under a 1 second away from Esteban Ocon as well. I think we have just about done it, maybe not actually, by the time we get down in towards turn 1 there, but yeah, Carlos Sainz, he's quietly fought his way back here and could be on still for a very good result in this race. Tsunoda's actually not been dropping away from the Red Bulls and the Ferraris up at the front of the order. So yeah, it just makes you wonder, had we pit 1 lap earlier, had we maybe had a good pit stop, we could have been right in the fight at the front. Oh, here we go. I don't think there's anything we can do against Sainz this time round. There's the MasterCard McLaren car there, yeah, comfortably later on the brakes as well. And we'll move up then into P6 of this GP. All I can hope for is that these two really battle with each other towards the end. Although it wouldn't surprise me if Carlos just gets through and pulls away. Come on, we've just got to stick with him. I'm trying to recharge my own battery pack here to give ourselves a fighting chance. But again, I mean, just look how much we lose. It's only a short run down towards turn 1, and it's impossible to match the AI. But with 2 laps to go then, we have been really concentrating over these last few, trying to charge up the battery, trying to give ourselves the best chance we possibly can towards the end of the afternoon. I don't know if Carlos Sainz has been doing the same thing, but either way, I think Esteban Ocon is going to become a little bit vulnerable towards the end of the day. This has been a high-risk strategy for us, but it's kind of the only chance we've really got to really get in with the mix with these guys, and I think if we want to try and be able to do anything, we're going to have to try and get past Carlos Sainz pretty soon. He's definitely a little bit vulnerable in a couple of places, but again, those AI, they're just so good off the corner exit that you can only do so much against them, gaining a little bit on the run back down in towards the old turn 1. Really just trying to carry as much speed as we possibly can through there, but surely now, if we can get a good run out of here, we're going to be able to get a run on the McLaren man, and of course we're both taking bags of time out of Ocon as well by the time we get down the end of the back straight. Can we do anything now against Carlos Sainz? It is now or never in this GP. From a long way back, we will send it to the inside there of the MasterCard McLaren, and up then back into P6 of this GP. Tsunoda in that second car. His pace seems to have fallen away a little bit towards the end of the afternoon, but 1 more lap to go then. Will we be able to get close enough to Esteban Ocon? Carlos Sainz is really trying to apply some pressure back to me again as we make our way through those first couple of corners, but again, using the ERS so strategically, trying to charge up as much of it as I possibly can through the corners, where of course it is not really helpful whatsoever. As we try and get a run then down the Wellington Straight one final time. This has been a tough old race this afternoon, but I'm hoping we can get a little bit of reward for it. It looks like up the front of the order, I think it's Lando Norris. I'm pretty certain it is Lando Norris in the Ferrari that is going to have dominated this race today. But Verstappen, again, another brilliant effort just to split those 2 cars. Can we get any closer to Esteban Ocon as we make our way through the old turn 1? See that gap now down to about 7/10 of a second, but it's still going to require a Herculean effort by the time we get out onto the back straight there. Carry the speed off of the corner, open up the ERS, the DRS, everything we possibly got in the car. Will we be able to get close enough by the end of the back straight? I don't think we will, unless we can try and have a look around the outside. Yeah, definitely not enough grip there. Lando Norris is going to claim victory here at the British Grand Prix. We're going to send it though on Ocon, a controversial move at the end of the GP, but we had to at least try it, getting a little bit scribbly out the final corner. It is P5.
Right, race over.
Here's the checkered flag. The fans rise to their feet. It's Lando Norris for victory.
Taking victory at their home circuit as well. What a place to do it. The fans are loving it. They're lapping it up. They have been all weekend long, and they have delivered what the fans wanted to see.
It's been a hard afternoon of brilliant racing, but now it's time for some proper celebrations. The podium awaits. He holds the trophy aloft, and why shouldn't he? A richly deserved win today for Lando Norris.
Well, there we are then. Lando Norris, he was so comfortably out in front during that race. I kind of forgot this was Ferrari's first win of the year. But there we go then. After McLaren won again last time out, Ferrari have finally proven they have got what it takes this season. Max Verstappen will come home for P2 ahead of Charles Leclerc. Tsunoda just ahead of Hadjar and Esteban Ocon there. All 3 Frenchmen scoring points though, with Pierre Gasly down in P9. And yet another point for Alexander Albon. I think he lost out on P9 on the very last lap there, but at least we gained 2 back on the other side of it as well. Now, I'm well aware that move on Esteban Ocon right at the end there was rather controversial, but one, the AI have such an unfair advantage around the rest of the lap, I don't care. And two, it's Esteban Ocon, so any move goes inside F1 25. Oscar Piastri, he'll be disappointed not to get back inside your top 10, especially, yeah, with obviously Carlos Sainz proving it was doable from a bit further back. Zach O'Sullivan, George Russell are two retirements from this afternoon's race. And if we take a look at the World Championship, well, Verstappen still has a 43-point lead over Lando Norris at the top, but with half the season down, if Ferrari can keep that momentum up, that gap could very, very quickly vanish. Tsunoda still in third ahead of myself there. 4 cars from 4 different teams inside your top 4. As Leclerc still in fifth, just ahead of Ocon, Sainz, Russell, Gasly, and Oscar Piastri there. At least for Alexander Albon, he is now comfortably kind of best of the rest, I guess. But he really shouldn't be best of the rest at this stage of the season. Constructors-wise, though, Ferrari now 4 clear of Red Bull, as McLaren still need a bit more of a resurgence. We are on a nice round 100 points, though, after this weekend's race as well, so rather happy with that one. Still ahead of Mercedes and Williams as well, which is very, very important. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 returns here still at Silverstone for the Reverse British Grand Prix.